DK always trusted the fourth rehearsal room the most. It was not the biggest. It did not have the best sound system. It was not even the newest. But it had one thing the others lacked: silence. At that hour the building felt abandoned. The corridors were dark. The elevators moved like they were thinking. And every footstep echoed too long. He arrived a little after 11:30, after the rest of the group had already gone home hours earlier. He had returned for one reason only, to practice a vocal passage that still bothered him. Nothing dramatic. Just an hour. Maybe two. The night receptionist looked up when he came through the lobby. "Again?" she asked. "Just for a while," DK said. "You are the only one who comes back after leaving." "Then I must be responsible," he said. "Or insane," she replied. "Possibly both," he said, and smiled. The elevator took too long to arrive. Long enough for DK to notice his own reflection in the metal doors. For a moment he felt certain someone was standing behind him. He turned. No one. When the doors opened, the elevator was empty. The fifth floor came alive with a thin strip of emergency light. The rehearsal room waited at the end of the corridor. He opened it with his card and found everything exactly as he had left it. The mirrors. The water bottles on the table. The tape marks on the floor. The silence. He turned on the lights, dropped his bag, connected the speaker, and began. For 40 minutes nothing happened. He sang. He repeated steps. He corrected himself. He began again. Then came the first sound. A soft clonk, like a door closing somewhere in the hall. He stopped. Waited. Nothing. Probably maintenance, he told himself, and continued. 5 minutes later it came again. Clonk. Closer this time. Too close. He killed the music and listened. Absolute silence. Then footsteps. Slow. Even. Approaching the room. Tack, tack, tack. They stopped just outside the door. DK held his breath. No knock came. No handle turned. He opened the door himself. The corridor was empty. He looked both ways. Nothing. When he stepped back inside and shut the door, he almost laughed at his own nerves. Old pipes. Air ducts. A tired building. Anything but what his skin was beginning to believe. Then he saw it. In the far mirror. A door. He blinked. The door remained. He turned. The wall behind him was bare. Only the mirror showed it. A black old door standing where no door should exist, with a metal knob and a small white plate with no number and no name. DK did not move. Neither did the reflection. Then came the knock from the other side. 3 slow, dry blows. Talk, talk, talk. And before he could decide whether to flee or answer, the knob in the mirror began to turn. DK stood motionless before the mirror. The 3 knocks still seemed to echo inside the room. Talk. 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 They did not come from the hallway. That was impossible. He had heard them behind the door that existed only in the reflection. His first reaction was simple. He looked straight at the wall. Nothing. Only the same mirror as always. Smooth. Cold. Perfectly normal. He looked back at the reflection. The door was still there. Black. Ancient. Darker than the rest of the room. As if it were drinking in the light from the ceiling lamps. DK took a step back. The door did the same. It stayed exactly the same distance from him, as if it were truly placed behind his own back. He slowly stretched a hand toward the mirror. His fingers touched the glass. Cold. Solid. Normal. Nothing happened. He gave a nervous laugh. "I need more sleep," he whispered. He pulled out his phone. He wanted to take a picture. Maybe the image would prove he was imagining things. He opened the camera, aimed it at the mirror. The screen showed the rehearsal room. The lights. The floor marks. The windows. But not the door. He lowered the phone. The door was there. He raised the camera again. It vanished. He lowered the phone once more. It returned. A chill crawled up his spine. Then came 3 more knocks. Talk. 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 This time louder. More impatient. As if whoever stood there knew he was being watched. DK backed away to the table at the far end of the room. For several seconds he stared at the reflection without moving. Waiting. Nothing. Silence. At last he decided to leave. He switched off the speaker, grabbed his bag, walked to the exit. But before opening it, he looked at the mirror one last time. The door had disappeared. He exhaled with relief. Perfect. Now I am really losing my mind. He stepped into the hallway. The emergency lights were still the only source of illumination. The building remained empty. He closed the door to room 4. And then he froze. In front of him, some 15 meters away, there was a black door. Ancient. With a metal knob. And a small white sign with no writing on it. The very same door. In the middle of the corridor. Where nothing like it had ever existed. DK took several seconds to react. He looked around. He was still on the 5th floor. He recognized the windows. The columns. The vending machines at the end of the hall. Everything was the same. Except for that door. He approached slowly. His heart was hammering in his chest. There was no frame. It did not seem installed in the wall. It was as if it had simply appeared there. Waiting. He raised his hand toward the knob. He did not touch it. Behind the door, someone breathed. A slow breath. Heavy. Too close. DK snatched his hand back at once. He stepped away. The breathing stopped. Then a voice came. His own voice. "Not yet," it said. The hallway fell completely silent. DK felt his legs stop obeying him. "Who is there?" No answer. "Who are you?" Silence. Then the voice spoke again. Exactly like his. Same rhythm. Same speed. Same tone. "If you open it too early, you will not be able to come back." DK took another step back. Then another. And another. Until he turned and ran toward the elevator. He pressed the button again and again. The doors took an eternity to open. He glanced one last time down the hallway. The door was gone. The corridor was empty again. He stepped into the elevator. The doors began to close. Just before they sealed, he saw something at the far end of the 5th floor. A person watching him. Dressed exactly like him. The same hoodie. The same pants. The same shoes. Even the same bag. The figure did not move. It only watched. The doors shut. The elevator descended. And throughout the entire ride to the ground floor, DK could hear footsteps walking on the roof of the elevator. Tack, 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 following him floor by floor, never stopping. DK barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, the door returned. Black. Still. Waiting for him at the end of the hall. And above all, he remembered that voice. His own voice. Not a similar one. Not someone imitating him. It was exactly his. The next morning he tried to convince himself it had been exhaustion. They had been working without rest for weeks. Rehearsals, recordings, trips, promotion. Lack of sleep could do strange things to a mind. That had to be it. Still, at 3 in the afternoon, he went back to the 5th floor. This time the building was full of people. Managers, choreographers, technicians, employees moving in and out without stopping. The corridor looked perfectly ordinary. There was no door. He walked the hallway again and again. Nothing. He even stopped exactly where he had seen it the night before. Only a white wall waited there. No marks. No cracks. No sign that anything had ever existed. For a few seconds, relief washed over him. Maybe he had imagined the whole thing. He entered room 4. The mirrors reflected exactly what they should. The room looked completely normal. No trace of the door. He let out a long breath. Perfect. I'm losing my mind. That same night, he ended up alone again. It had not been planned. It simply happened. Shortly after 11, the building began to empty. At 11:20, only 2 people remained at reception. DK spent the rest of the night sitting in front of the door. It never opened again. The phone never rang again. No more knocks. Only the key. Small. Cold. Heavy in the pocket of his hoodie, as if it were far larger than it should have been. At 2 in the morning he left the building. The door was still there when he stepped out of the room. And it was still there when the elevator doors closed. Waiting. As if it knew he would come back. Because they both knew he would come back. On the ride home he could think of nothing except the number. It felt familiar. Too familiar. But he could not remember why. It was only the next morning that the answer came. He was reviewing old rehearsal videos when he noticed the date on one of them. June 17th. 17:06. He stared at the screen for several seconds. Impossible. Too neat a coincidence. Yet something still did not fit. The key did not say 17:06. It said 17:06. Like a room. Like a hall. Like a door number. That afternoon he decided to investigate. DK remained motionless before the door. He did not know how long he had stopped breathing. Seconds, perhaps. Or several minutes. The darkness beyond was still absolute. It did not look like a room. It did not look like a corridor. It looked like the complete absence of any place at all. "That is impossible," he whispered. The voice answered at once. I said the same thing. His heart slammed against his ribs. "Why do you sound exactly like me?" "Because I am you." "No." "Yes." The answer came too fast. Too certain. "Open your phone light and look inside." DK hesitated. Then he switched on the flashlight. He aimed it through the doorway. The beam vanished a few feet in, swallowed by the dark as if the room were drinking it. But for a fraction of a second, he saw it. A room. A rehearsal room. The same mirrors. The same windows. The same marks on the floor. It was room 4. Exactly the same. Only older. Abandoned. Covered in dust, as if decades had passed since anyone had entered. And then he saw the silhouette. A man seated on the floor. His back against the wall. The same sweatshirt. The same chain. The same haircut. Himself. The flashlight shook in his hand. "Now do you believe me?" DK stepped back instinctively. "What is this place?" The figure took several seconds to answer. "Room 1706. It does not exist." "That is what I thought too." The older version of himself lifted his head slowly. The circles under his eyes were deep. His clothes were worn. He looked like someone who had not slept in a very long time. "Listen carefully. We only have a few minutes. After that, the door will close again." DK said nothing. "I opened this door 7 days ago. I thought I would find another room. Another corridor. Anything. But when I crossed..." He fell silent. The door vanished behind me. DK felt cold creep along his arms. "That is impossible. Inside here time works differently. I do not know how to explain it. Outside, days pass. Inside, months do." Silence settled heavily between them. "How long have you been in there?" The figure smiled without joy. "I do not know. Maybe 7 days. Maybe 7 years." DK swallowed. "Then come out." The other version of himself shook his head slowly. "I cannot. The door only opens for one person. When someone new enters." The sentence hung in the air. DK understood the answer before hearing it. The previous one stays inside. The room seemed to grow colder. "No." "Yes. That is why I appeared in the elevator. That is why I called you. That is why I left the key." The figure stood up slowly. "I was trying to stop you from making the same mistake." DK looked at the open door. At the darkness. At the person in front of him. A person who was himself. Then something impossible happened. A noise behind the figure. Steps. Slow. Dragging. One. Then another. Then another. The other DK changed immediately. "It has come." "Who?" The figure did not answer. He was staring at something behind him. Something hidden in the dark. The steps kept coming. Dragging over the floor. Closer and closer. Louder and louder. "Close the door." DK did not move. "Close it now." For the first time that voice sounded terrified. Then he saw it. A silhouette emerged at the back of the room. Too tall. Too thin. Its arms were unnaturally long. Its face remained buried in shadow. But its eyes were not. 2 white points. Still. Fixed directly on him. The creature stopped. and smiled. Not at the other DK. At him. As if it had been waiting from the beginning. It already knows who is next. DK shoved the key into the lock with trembling hands. Turned it. The door began to close. The other version of himself ran toward it. For one instant, their hands were inches apart. Do not come back. The door shut. The corridor vanished. Silence returned. DK fell to the floor, trying to catch his breath. The door was gone. The key remained in his hand. For several minutes he believed it was over. Until he heard the knocking. Very soft. From inside the wall. Talk. 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 3 knocks. Exactly like the first night. Then came a voice, muffled. Distant. Almost inaudible. His own voice. Do not take too long. It is already searching for the next door. DK did not return to the 5th floor for 3 days. He tried to keep his routine intact. Rehearsals. Recordings. Interviews. Meetings. He tried to convince himself it had all ended. That the door had vanished. That the key could stay forgotten in the bottom of a drawer. But every night, exactly at midnight, he heard the knocks. Always 3. Always the same. Talk. 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 No matter where he was. At home. In the studio. In the car. Even with headphones on. The knocks still came. At first he told himself it was imagination. Until it happened in front of someone else. He was finishing a recording when one of the technicians looked up. Did you hear that? DK felt the blood drain from his face. What thing? It sounded like someone knocking on a door. 3 times. Talk. 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 The technician went straight back to work. As if it meant nothing. But DK understood something then. The others could hear the knocks. They simply did not care where they came from. Only he knew. Only he knew what waited behind them. That same night he decided to go back. He climbed to the 5th floor. The building was empty. Silent. And there it was again. The black door. Waiting for him in the same place as always. But something had changed. Now it was scratched. Dozens of marks. As if someone had tried to get out from inside. DK approached slowly. He pressed his hand against the wood. It was warm. Too warm. As if someone were breathing behind it. Then he heard the voice. It did not come from inside. It came from right behind him. You took long enough. He turned at once. No one was there. He looked back at the door. It stood open. Only a few centimeters. The darkness inside seemed deeper than ever. And then he heard it. Help me. The voice of the other DK. Weaker. Farther away. Please. DK closed his eyes for a few seconds. He knew exactly what would happen if he crossed. He had known from the start. Still, he stepped forward. Then another step. And another. Until he stood at the threshold. If I go in? The answer drifted from the darkness. You will not be the same. Silence flooded the hall. But you may still come back. DK opened his eyes. What does that mean? The voice took several seconds to answer. The door never stays in one place. When it finishes with one person, it looks for another. Another building. Another country. Another city. Always every 7 days. DK shivered. Then someone else will find it. It always happens. He looked at the key still in his hand. For the first time, he understood. The key did not open the door. The key chose the next one. That was why it had appeared in his hand. That was why his name had been written on it. It was not an exit. It was an invitation. Then he remembered. The receptionist. The woman from the archive. The building staff. All of them had worked there for years. All of them knew the story. And none of them seemed surprised. As if the door had been appearing for far longer than anyone wanted to admit. He stepped back. Then another step. He made a decision. He placed the key on the floor. And walked away from the door. The knocks began at once. Talk. 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 Louder. Faster. Angrier. But DK kept walking. He reached the elevator. Pressed the button. Waited. The knocks continued. Talk. 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 The doors opened. He stepped in. They began to close. And just before they shut, he saw something in the hall. The key was gone. The elevator descended slowly. First floor. Ground level. The doors opened. The receptionist looked up. Everything all right? DK hesitated. Yes. She smiled. Good. Then she pointed behind him. By the way, I think you dropped this. On the counter lay the silver key. Exactly the same as before. DK slowly raised his eyes. The receptionist was still smiling. Don't worry. It always comes back to its owner. That was the last time he returned to the building at night. Months passed. Then an entire year. He never heard the knocks again. Never saw the door. Until one morning. He was in a hotel during a tour. He woke exactly at 3:17. He did not know why. He simply opened his eyes.